Good evening. As James has said, this is the story of four brothers. First, my grandfather, Morris, who had the very good sense to be a policeman in Shanghai during the Great War. Second, my great-uncle Ted, the youngest of the four, a truly lovely man. He survived the war, he served in the machine gun corps and won the Military Cross in Italy. The eldest was George, and this is my first artifact. This is a picture of George. It was painted by his great friend, Snaffles. Snaffles is not a Stubbs or a Munnings, but he was a very renowned painter of his day, and his pictures, and indeed his prints, remain very valuable even today. George was by repute one of the finest gentleman jockeys of his generation. He was a captain in the 2nd Dragoon Guards, the Queen's Bays. The war was declared on the 28th of July, his regiment mobilised on the 3rd of August, inspected by the King on the 11th, and they arrived in France on the 16th, horses and all. This picture shows him, and he's sitting third on from the left. And it shows the regiment's officers just before the war began. Now, those of you who attended the Dean's talk will recall that the war was still something of an adventure at this very early stage. The regiment first saw action on the 23rd of August, and although the front line was fairly fluid at this stage, essentially we, the British Expeditionary Force, and the French were in retreat. On the 12th of September, the Bays were ordered to clear the village of Braise in northern France, and then seize the heights which overlook the River Ains. I quote, "The remainder of the regiment dismounted and advanced through Braise, engaging in house-to-house fighting. But a German sniper killed George Springfield. Such an abrupt end, and the war was barely a month old." Now, this is my second artifact. This quite extraordinary book called British Roll of Honour, a private print, and it contains some 150 names of officers who were killed during the Great War, one of which was the fourth brother, Humphrey. Humphrey lived and worked in Dorset. He joined the Dorsetshire Yeomanry Regiment in 1914. If you don't know, the yeomanry regiments were the Army Reserve cavalry units based on counties. In March 1915, he was granted a commission in the Warwickshire Yeomanry, and almost at once a regiment was sent to Egypt as part of the colonial expeditionary force. Its role, of course, was to defend the Suez Canals from the Turks of the Ottoman Empire. Now, within days of reaching Egypt, he and most of his regiment were sent to Gallipoli. They took horrendous casualties, but he was only slightly wounded. And as soon as Gallipoli was over, they found themselves back in the Sinai Desert. On the 4th of August, the Turks made a determined attack at a place called Romani, which is some 20 miles east of the canal in northern Sinai. The attack was repulsed, and the colonial force counterattacked with some success. On the 5th, the line had stabilised, and a further push by the colonial force was halted at a place called Katia, a few miles further east. The Warwickshire Yeomanry were in the heart of this battle. I quote, "Captain Gooch took Lieutenant Jackson's squadron round to the left at Katia. They came under heavy fire and had to retire under cover, and several men were wounded or had their horses killed. Lieutenant Springfield volunteered to take back 2 men per troop with spare horses to bring these men in. Having got his men under cover, he went out on foot and he rescued Sergeant Ward, who had been pinned under his horse for 15 minutes. He collected and sent in other wounded and dismounted men, all the time under heavy fire. At this time, Captain Gooch came out mounted and insisted on Lieutenant Springfield getting up behind him. Lieutenant Springfield was about to go out again. Lieutenant Springfield was killed almost immediately after. Life and death can be so cruel. He was mentioned in dispatches for great gallantry. I give you this final picture, if it's going to appear. There, wonderful picture. I know you're probably fairly interested. I find it a very, very evocative picture. It's taken by one of Lieutenant Springfield's soldiers. The annotation reads, "A Cossack post in the vicinity of Gilbane siding, signalling by means of heliograph. Lieutenant Springfield, our troop commander, who was killed in action on the 5th of August at Katia, may be seen in the foreground." And I give you a final small anecdote, which I find quite moving. My nephew discovered a few months ago that there was a plaque at St Andrew's Church, Fontmell Magna, marking Humphrey's death. He went down to see it, and he was told that on the 5th of August 2016, they rang a half peal marking his death, the anniversary, 100 years to the day of his anniversary of his death. And I would suggest to you that was a wonderful and very moving gesture. Thank you very much.